You've shed some interesting light on the possibilities of what a UN High Commissioner for Human Rights can do. What often seems, however, like a thankless job of trying to get governments to stop gross violations of human rights. And I wonder if you have another story you might share of either your own experience or another one of the High Commissioners who has made a difference in protecting a particular individual or more generally in promoting human rights.
I would like to answer your question in this way. I think that there is need for scholarly investigation of the evolution of the position of High Commissioner. You see, as I look at it right now, I'm going to use my words carefully and without comment on any occupant. I have respect for them all. I know they have a difficult job. So that at a time when the international landscape is so difficult to operate in, the difficulties tell also on High Commissioners. A High Commissioner wears many hats. A High Commissioner wears a moral hat, a political hat, and an administrative hat. The moral hat is the High Commissioner should represent the voice of conscience. And so, okay, if the High Commissioner goes out there like a voice in the wilderness without any real authority, it's not so easy. So that's the moral hat. The political hat, the High Commissioner has to recognize the political forces that are at large in the world. And if a High Commissioner ignores those political forces, a High Commissioner is not going to get very far. And then the administrative hat, apart from the fact that you have to administer, they have some 1,000 personnel right now. It is a fact of life that powerful states are squeezing the High Commissioners all the time in key areas of the program because they have to vote the budgets. I want to tell you a story that happened to me. I went once when I was High Commissioner before a body called the Administrative Committee,
ACABQ.
ACABQ, right. I was getting the second A wrong. Administrative Advisory Committee on Administrative and Budgetary Questions. And then there was a delegate. I will not mention the country. He was a rather obnoxious individual. And so he asked me a question, which I tried to answer in good faith. But he wanted to show off. And so he took the floor and he said, High Commissioner, I have to tell you this. You have not really answered my question. And unless you answer my question, you will not get a penny of your program. Now, this obnoxious pipsqueak could marshal a lot of support. So anyhow, a High Commissioner has to navigate these three hats. When I finished the 14 months as High Commissioner, I wrote a book called A UN High Commissioner in Defense of Human Rights. And initially, I gave it the subtitle, Leadership, Troubleshooting, and Diplomacy, which I didn't retain in the end, but hold these three words, leadership. A High Commissioner must lead intellectually. A High Commissioner must engage in troubleshooting in situations of difficulties. And a High Commissioner must engage in diplomacy. Now, I want to bring in two concepts. When I used to teach human rights at Columbia University, I found myself saying to my students that one can put human rights work into two categories. The category of seed planting and the category of the fire brigade. The fire brigade is putting out the fire, hopefully, but what really matters is seed planting. And the core seed to be planted, there are two seeds rather to be planted. The first seed is to help countries establish or enhance their national protection systems. And the second seed is to teach human rights in primary, secondary, and other institutions of learning. So now, if you think about it, when I've thought about it, keeping in mind the political currents that are at work in the world, if I had to spend the time of the High Commissioner, I would say that the High Commissioner should remember my 3 words: lead intellectually at the time when universality is on the challenge.
Right.
That's what I mean by lead. Troubleshooting. There are situations that clearly call for the attention of the High Commissioner. And diplomacy. The High Commissioner should go out there and talk to the government of my country, Guyana. Say, Guyana, can we talk discreetly about how we can enhance your national protection system? So discharging the responsibilities of the High Commissioner called, I'm speaking now, if I may, Peggy, I'm speaking now, allow me to take on the mantle of a pseudo scholar as I address this issue. I am not being judgmental, I am being reflective, but I think that a High Commissioner has to carefully assess where she or he can best make a contribution. I want to give you an example, if I may. There was a moment when Madeleine Albright was Secretary of State and Mary Robinson was the High Commissioner. I was her deputy at the time. And Madeleine Albright came then to the Commission on Human Rights. And Mary Robinson was a woman of high integrity, high principles. And so she had a 45-minute meeting with Madeleine Albright. And she proceeded to lecture Madeleine Albright on the death penalty in the United States. And I could not help thinking, was that the wisest way for her to use her time? Might she have said to the Secretary of State, there are issues that I'd like to discuss with you on some occasion, including the death penalty in the United States. But may I focus this conversation on areas where you might be able to help me spread the human rights cause, the mission around the world. So there are many issues there. So what I'm saying to you, launch a political science study into the office of the High Commissioner. We need some dispassionate thinking here.
Core lesson in politics, the art of the possible.
Yeah, the art of the possible, always keeping in mind, I need to bring in this concept. I have what I call the theory of expanding circles when it comes to human rights. At the center of some circles is a dot that I call the center of commitment. And outside of the first dot, there's a small circle, what I call the circle of achievement. And outside of that, there is another circle that I call the circle of immediate opportunities. And outside of that is a wide circle, the circle of the world with all of its problems. Well, the challenge is to keep pushing outwards the circle of achievement. I don't want to bow entirely to the concept of the art of the possible. I like my presentation of the expanding circles.